Did either of you guys ever wrestle in school?
No.
Mm-mm.
No, I feel like I probably mentioned this on the show a long time ago, but it's the same season as hockey. And so like when you get to high school and everything, like they won't, at least like the real hockey teams I played for, like wouldn't allow me to wrestle and do other stuff because I had more practices and stuff. And so in middle school, I wrestled though, because it didn't matter. So I could do hockey and wrestling at the same time. And I think I wrestled at like 140. Like I was either 135, 140. Like big, for for a 14-year-old, it was pretty big, like 140 or so. Like, and maybe it was 145. And I was like way better at wrestling than you might imagine. Like I took to it pretty quickly, but my coach was like a fucking animal. Like he was one of those guys he was my 8th grade wrestling coach and also my 8th grade history teacher. And he could not care less about American history. This guy didn't give a fuck. Like he very obviously didn't care. He was there to coach wrestling and he made that clear. Like he would call himself a coach who teaches. And he was like a collegiate wrestler. He was very good, I guess, or at least that's what he said. I never looked into it. But before my first meet, he took me aside and was like, Taylor, I scouted out the guys you're wrestling against today. Some fatties, couple of fatties. and like I was not fat. Like I was a pretty built 14.
So you're at one. So you should be at 140 and you've got guys who are too fat to be at 40.
Yeah. I was like probably 145 ish, like 5'10", like a pretty
that
like,
sounds like
these
so
guys
much fun.
should be 120, but they 20 pounds
should be 120.
Yeah.
And like, but he's like, they have some good technique or something led to that. And he's like, Taylor, this is what I want you to do. At the start of every match, your hands are like this. I want you to throw your right forearm and hit them in the collarbone as hard as you can. And like this, like shoot my arm forward and slam into them like that. And I was like, and in my head, I'm like, is he telling me to cheat? I'm like, real? Like, because we did not go over this in practice. we went over.
I don't do this to my teammates for some reason.
Yeah, don't do it to my teammates. We single legs, double legs. Like we did all that stuff doing the goofy wrestling exercises. But he was like, no, I want you to hit him as hard as you can in his collarbone right off the start. And I was like, okay. And it was my first wrestling match. My dad, my mom were there. I think my younger brother was there watching. I was one of the first on our team to go up. And the first guy was like definitely shorter than me, stocky, not fat, like a little fat, I guess, but like looked like a strong kid. And in my head, I'm like, I hope I'm able to get the jump on him. But I was, because it turns out no one else was telling their kids to hit collarbones with forearms as hard as you can. And
he didn't know the technique.
He didn't know. And so I like off the start, they go like doop or whatever to start it. And I like take a step and with all my power slam my whole forearm bone into this guy's like, and there's a little bit of a hammer arm to it because I don't know what I'm doing. I've never practiced this before. Not a way over the head thing. Definitely not. But like
came out karate.
I came out and I hit, and he told me, he's like, hit him with your forearm. You're not punching, your forearm hitting him. And I dropped this kid like I've never seen shock in the eyes. This kid did not expect to get belted like that. And I hit him so fucking hard that immediately I took him to the ground and like he was still in like shock and I pinned him. Like it's wrestling. It's not like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like you might have KO'd their arms. I pretty much KO'd him. And like I won super quickly. All my teammates on my on the bench
were their parents booing or anything?
Yeah, no, nobody was booing. My dad was like so proud that I beat the shit out of this kid. And it's wrestling meet. So I had like so I beat the shit out of that kid and I won very quickly. And then I went back and waited for my next match. And then I went up and then my coach came over and he was like, Taylor, that was perfect. That is exactly what you need to do. And he's like, Taylor, next round, I want you to take your forearm and hit him in the collarbone as hard as you can again. And at this point, like I'm like feeling juiced up. I'm like, man, I'm feeling good. I'm good at wrestling. And so then I think I wrestled 3 times.
I'm gonna need a name.
The second guy was actually like my size, leaner, but he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to be assaulted by another 14-year-old. I hit that kid so fucking hard in the collarbone. That one took a little bit longer, but I still took him down. Like you haven't, I'd never been in a physical conflict where I could see fear in the eyes of someone I was in combat with. And I dominated this kid. I'm like high on my own supply. I'm feeling great about this. Now, my second wrestling meet after this, there was this big Asian guy who knew what he was fucking doing. He got cliff notes on my only move, and he like did a bunch of actual wrestling and beat me. But this first meet, I went back. I was now 2-0, I believe. And then I had one more. And the last guy was this kid who had no business fighting me. Like he was a head and a half shorter than me, a little butterball. We're both 14, but this kid, if the first 2 guys were layups, this guy was like a fucking play school dunk, like on a 3-foot plastic hoop. Like that's what he was. And so the way it works is we walk around to the side, and we have to stand by the like judges table while we're waiting for the match before us to conclude. And I see this other kid, this little butterball walking up, and he's like, hey. And I'm like, hey. And he goes, I saw your first matches. I'm afraid of you. He told me, he said, I'm afraid of you, which got me being like, yeah, you should be, bitch. I'm gonna guess what?
Wow.
I'm like
Taylor was a monster.
No, I didn't say I didn't say that out loud. In my head, I was thinking, I'm trying to hype myself up in my head. I'm like, yeah, you should be. I'm a good wrestler. Not really. And this kid told me he was afraid of me. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, haha. And like, then we both go in there, and he had seen me do my only move. And so like off the start, I go to hit him as hard as I can in the collarbone, and he retreats. He retreated from the fight. He like did like multiple jumps back. I have so much energy behind this forearm that I stumble forward like onto my hands and knees. And now we're not wrestling. Now we're doing Benny Hill, where I am chasing this fat kid around the ring, trying to get a hold of him. And like he has his like back to me running almost, like he's not even backing away. And so I had to go wrangle this kid in and then do like a couple of the traditional wrestling moves that I had learned in order to win that one. Like the little, reach under the arm and put on the back of the head and like push and roll him over like that, which was still easy because he was not in the mood to fight. That kid didn't want to be there. And so wrapped up my wrestling career. My first day, I think I was 3-0 because I didn't lose my first day.
2 or 3 pins this day?
I got 3. I got all 3 pins because once the first 2 guys got clocked in they didn't run practice for what if the coach of one school tells their kid to go balls out assault mode on people. It was like the most I've ever dominated in a one-on-one sporting event ever. And it only happened the next meet, I was so like, nobody can predict this. My one move. And no, this big Asian guy, he knew what he was fucking doing. He was tying me up, wrangling me, like that didn't go well for me. He beat me very easily. But yeah, I felt good.
If you faced 14-year-old Woody, I would have gotten my shit pushed in. You fought at 140?
Yeah.
I don't know what I weighed at 14, but I do know that at 15 I broke 3 digits. So I was like, what, 91, 88, something like that.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I was little.
When I was 6 feet tall when I was 15. I know that. And I was like 100 and I lost a bunch of weight and then got down to 155, but I had been like maybe 165 or something, 170, like around then.
I didn't know what like a good male physique looked like. And, I've always had a really big rib cage, but at this point I hadn't like grown into it. I didn't have like deltoids or whatever to make me look like a human, more like a bird. And, I was riding my bicycle shirtless. And I've got this giant rib cage where you can see all the bones in it. And this girl yells out, "Nice chest." And I had no idea that she was mocking me. I'm like, "You're like,
Maybe she wasn't, Woody. Maybe she wasn't. Woody, there's no reason to look back on that and know for sure she was making fun of you. Just pretend like that. Think of that as a missed opportunity. That was love at first sight.
Did she come over with like those xylophone mallets, like ding 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 ding, playing it on your ribs, like Looney Tunes?
I was just riding my bike somewhere. I was probably going to work. I don't know, but I had no shirt on, and she yelled that out, and I don't think she really meant it.
That's funny.
Well, that's unfortunate.